Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are very excited to kick off our week of AlphaNooners with Forrest Hoffmaster and Justin Dye from Schwazze. Very excited to sit down and talk about what has been going on from a company perspective, as well as cover what is going on in the cannabis landscape at large. We always talk about when we're talking about cannabis, there's never a boring day, never a boring time, and definitely this year has definitely proven that. Good reminder before we jump in, if you have any questions, comments you want to add in, you, of course, can put them in the chat and we will get to them there. But yeah, I think with all that said, thanks so much, both of you, for joining. Really, really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mackenzie. We're grateful for the opportunity to get to spend time with you and the listeners here. We're very excited about Schwazze and our future and, frankly, the future of the cannabis industry. We think we have some really good things ahead of us, and we're very proud of our company. So let me do some brief introductions here. So Justin Dye, I'm chairman of the board and a large investor in the company, and have been involved. Our firm has been involved from an investment standpoint since 2019. And Forrest Hoffmaster is our interim CEO and CFO. And prior to this, we recruited Forrest from New Seasons Market, where he was the CEO of about a $750 million business. It was a really grocery food forward business with 26 stores and did a terrific job there. Forrest also spent time with Whole Foods. It really was there when they really started to grow that business, and brings a really unique perspective from retailing and really a customer first approach to that. And then prior to that, he was also at HEB and started his career at Arthur Andersen, as did I. So with that, I'll let our CEO, Forrest, share with you a little bit about our business.
Yeah, sounds great.
Hi, Mackenzie. Pleasure to be here. Good to meet you. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, never a dull moment. I'll echo that. Never a dull moment in cannabis. I've only been in the field for about a year and a half now, and definitely haven't looked back just because there's so much right in front of me. So yeah, I think overview of the company, I think Schwazze as we know it really began in 2019 through a series of investments, primarily by Dye Capital, as Justin mentioned, and then through a series of roll-ups and acquisitions in 2020 and 2021 in Colorado, and then 2022 became a local MSO in Colorado and New Mexico. So we're now the number one, number two retail operator, depending on how you look at it, in Colorado and New Mexico. We ended the year with $172 million in revenue, TTM about $175 million in revenue, and 31% EBITDA margins. So one of the higher, if not the highest, EBITDA margin MSO. We've got a strong board. Our executive team is largely made up of industry veterans in grocery retail and within cannabis as well. And we've got roughly 700 employees with 62 stores in total, 35 in New Mexico and 27 in Colorado. We've got 5 cultivation facilities, 2 manufacturing facilities, and a distribution center. We also have a wholesale business that does roughly 10% of our total revenue. And we've got 2 brands, the Purple Bees brand, which is our vape brand, and our EDW, or Everyday Weed, which is our pre-roll brand.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, definitely do want to dig further into just sort of the company, but it seems like you guys are, doing some great things. And like you mentioned, operating in some interesting markets, which I do also want to dig into a little bit more. But
Sure.
Forrest did want to just talk a little bit more just about you, because it's about a year that you've been interim. You're coming up, I guess, roughly on CEO.
Yeah.
How's that been? What's that been like? I feel like that's just super interesting. We'd love to hear how that experience has been so far.
I love it. I mean, food has been really most of my career, 25 plus years. It's just in my DNA. What I loved about it is you can really operate from a place of purpose, as well as growing the top line and talking EBITDA. So cannabis is in that same realm. We talk a lot about purpose and what we're doing to change lives with our customers and patients, and we also get to talk very directly about growing the top line and growing profit, and I love the challenge that is cannabis. It's still a young industry. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces and a lot of regulation, but at the end of the day, it's still very much a customer forward business, and getting to, I love getting to know who our customer is and how they shop and what they want, and being able to tell stories and creating all the things that go along with that. So it's certainly been a whirlwind, and but I'm happy to be here and be part of it.
That's fantastic. And in terms of overlap from, your background kind of in the grocery side of things,
Yeah.
is there anything that's similar in terms of how because I know a lot of people talk about food as medicine is a big important component.
Yeah.
What's the overlap there just from your kind of background and history?
No, it's spot on. It is, we do look at it as medicine. We can't get past the politics that get in the way of the people's voice and what's right for people. At least that's what we believe, and our customers believe that. So we very much can tap into that. We create community around that. In terms of the similarities, it's still product placement, promotions, pricing. Especially in these markets, in the unrestricted markets, we have to really be on our game in terms of how we bring the retail experience to the customer, and so it's that's the tough part of retail, and we love it. Mm-hmm. It's in our DNA, and we wake up every morning, we're talking about it, and what our go-to-market strategy looks like, and how we're executing in each of our markets. So all that's very similar.
I think that's fantastic. I think a lot of the times cannabis has fought to kind of be recognized as not just another business, because that kind of undersells it, but it is those basics, the 3 Ps kind of components. It is like any other business. It does have that legitimacy and is kind of coming into its own as it's maturing, which is great to see and hear. Yeah. I think that's, of course, a great way to approach it. All right, well, then I did want to dig into kind of the markets that you both are in or that Schwazze is in, and kind of talk through them, because I know Colorado gets some play just because it's sort of one of those original markets, but New Mexico is kind of an interesting one and kind of a differentiator. Would love to kind of just hear some highlights and updates in those markets.
Yeah, I love these markets. It's, I think Colorado's been around a while, just past the 10-year anniversary of legalization in the state. It's a mature market. The consumer here really understands the product, so you have to elevate your game. Your bud tenders really need to carry that knowledge base of the product, that passion, and really show our customer that we're in it for the long term. They're both difficult markets, challenging in their own way, both unrestricted, but we are able to still maintain an 8% north market share in both markets. But in terms of the differentiation point, Colorado is about a $1.5 billion market. There's 670, a little over 670 dispensaries that average about 45K a week, where you've got New Mexico at about a $500 million of a market with more dispensaries, 690 plus dispensaries that do about 40% of the Colorado per capita dispensaries. So are the average dispensaries. So they average more like 18,000. So we're about, in terms of our metrics, we rough out to be about double the average dispensary sales. But, obviously the economics in New Mexico are a little bit different, put pressure on the industry, put pressure on the dispensaries. So we have a higher illicit market so that those dispensaries can survive. There's no other way they could survive given the economics of it. So, again, Colorado, super mature. We're very much retail forward, very much experience driven. It has the market over time has declined, but that's starting to decelerate. And so we're in this place now where it's a bit of a holding pattern. And we see it as an opportunity where I think a lot of folks are looking to see what happens in Florida, to see what happens with rescheduling. And we see it as an opportunity not only for consolidation, but just to lean in further into our business model and what we do on the retail side to go ahead and win share. In New Mexico, a bit of a different situation, a few more variables, still working closely with local governments on just the licensing restrictions and what could be available there, and then just bolstering up the regulation of the illicit market.
Yeah. And then where would you say, so you mentioned that Colorado coming up on that 10-year anniversary, where would you say New Mexico is kind of in that maturation? Is it, Colorado 5 years ago? Is it Colorado 8 years ago? Is it Colorado last year? Where is it kind of, if you'd estimate?
Yeah, I think, it's difficult because I think Colorado is now coming out of the hangover of COVID in terms of just the shakeout from that and getting the equilibrium in the market from supply and demand. New Mexico, I think New Mexico is still going to take another year, 18 months or so to really start to show us what equilibrium looks like. However, pricing maturity has happened quickly. We estimated it'd probably be 3-4 years before the pricing would catch up to what we see in Colorado, and we're 2 years in and fully caught up to where Colorado is. That would be the biggest difference on the pricing side. So I would say it's maturing quickly. I'd also say there's a lot of shakeout that is going to and needs to happen so that we can create more stable economics for the state and for the operators in the state.
Yeah, that makes sense. And would you kind of attribute that rapid maturation to kind of the fact that things have changed kind of broadly across the U.S.? It's not 10 years ago. The sentiment around cannabis is entirely different. It's almost unrecognizable from 10 years ago, a decade ago. Is that kind of what you credit that towards? Also, Justin, if you have any thoughts on that as well, feel free to.
Yeah, the answer is yes, absolutely. I think you've got nationwide adoption. You've also got a state that has had a medical program in place. So the consumer there is already very familiar with the product. It's always had a pretty heavy illicit market as well. People understand the product. The adoption has been quick, which is actually why I think you've seen such a proliferation of licenses in the market.
Okay. And then I guess from a company perspective, what I've heard in terms of how to combat an illicit market or kind of compete against them is really that consistent quality, is sort of, the quality experience when you're coming into a dispensary, all of those things. What are you guys focused on in terms of being able to say, hey, we're different, we're not, the illicit market?
Yeah, it's not just quality, it's safety.
Yes.
And so how you call that out in a way that just doesn't provoke fear is an art in itself. But yeah, we've just rolled out a new live wave flower program in the state. So that's new for the state, moving out of prepackaged, showing the customer the flower and helping them engage their senses. So there's that piece of it, telling the story. One of the things that's unique about us too is we have the widest assortment in the state. Our vertical integration is a little bit lower than you would otherwise see. So we're at about 40-50% now on vertical integration, which really, I think one of the benefits of Schwazze is we just aren't over-invested in the capital infrastructure to support cultivation and grows. And we're very much retail forward about offering that assortment, about offering that quality, and then just having that bud tender experience, which we think is unmatched in the state.
I think that's fantastic. And then, so in terms of cultivating that experience, I know a lot of that is driven as well by kind of collecting data on your customers, trying to figure out what they like, trying to continue to create that good experience. What have you seen that's been interesting in terms of what people are looking for? I know obviously you want a friendly bud tender, that's, kind of an obvious, but anything else that kind of sticks out in terms of what people are looking for from their experience?
That's a great question. We lean heavily on data. And we've got an abundance of it. It's how you break it down to make sure it's actionable. I would say back to New Mexico, that's been the biggest point of differentiation is we look at, we talk a lot in the industry about statewide statistics, but when you look at New Mexico, it's really more like 7 or 8 different micro markets within that state. And so being able to pare down what your competitive environment looks like, what your demographic is, what people are buying into, whether you're on a border of the state, whether you're internally, depending on where you are in the city or tertiary markets. And so we use it to inform where we build sites, what our assortment looks like, what the aesthetic, do we go in with one particular banner, or do we go in with more of a discount banner that's more approachable to that resident? And so we're very much dialed in, obsessed really about that particular customer, how they shop, what they look like, what they dress like, what they're looking for when they're not with us, and just how we can reach them with the assortment, making sure our pricing is right, our promotions right, our loyalty programs right, all of it. It's all tailored around what they're telling us each day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you mentioned kind of promotions, trying to reach out to new people as well, I'm sure is a big part of it. But I know with cannabis, it's a
Yeah.
little different than selling, gum or burgers or anything like that. You really have to get kind of creative. How are you guys getting the word out about, who you guys are and why come to you guys?
Yeah, it's, I've taken a page out of the old Whole Foods book where
Oh,
I think you remember, John Mackey was always talking about we don't have a marketing budget. And so we don't have a marketing budget. We very much take it to the field. We're very much grassroots. We're out in the community, being
that's
a
great.
part of the community, engaging with the community. And just doing silly stuff too, loud red t-shirts, come, check us out, and
Mhm.
and getting into the local establishments, handing out cards, and that's how we do it. It's all word of mouth, and reputation is everything. So once we have the customer inside the four walls, we lean on our bud tenders to do what they do best. And we tell the stories, we listen to what their needs are. We go, not one, but two, three levels deeper, and engage with them at that level. So word of mouth is everything, just because of, to your point, we're not doing big billboards. We're not doing a lot of advertising on TV and radio. We're doing everything that we can do within those parameters. And then we're just out on the streets.
That's been, I think ultimately that's the core again of any business. The word of mouth is kind of the
Yeah,
best way to kind of get that across. I know we're
absolutely.
limited in the cannabis industry, of course, but that's obviously going to be kind of the best thing. People trust their friends, trust their kind of community in general. So I think that's great. I mean, always keeping an eye towards being able to advertise, hopefully in the future when things change. But for now, I think that's fantastic. And I do
Yeah.
honestly think, cannabis and community seems to be a big component. I know people are looking at the lounges. It's kind of that social aspect. People get to know their bud tenders and have those really strong relationships. Those are important. I do see a comment from Braindead in the comments who's asking about what about automated bud tenders, which is an interesting question. We've seen a lot of, Chipotle trying to automate a lot of their services and kind of labor. That's not on your guys's thought radar, really, right?
No,
Ultimately,
no. Let me make a comment. So this
please.
is we love this business.
Mhm.
We love our employees, and they in turn love our patients and customers. This is a local deal. This is a local business, and you have to be locally dialed in with your patient base, customer base. You have to create great consistency around treating them well and what they need, and to keep your ear to the ground. And it's being, as Forrest said, it is being in the communities. It's developing that reputation, that trust. We are absolutely consumer and patient focused. We want to provide the broadest sense of product and the best services, even if it costs us a little bit more to do that. We think, we're not necessarily want to be the biggest. We certainly want to be the best at taking care of our customers, and that has guided everything that we've done here. So I very much think this is a very personal relationship about, the medicine that we're providing and listening. And I think, we've built the company around that, and I think our DNA is built towards that. So that's really, in our view, that's how we're going to win in these markets. And we have great people who have been through different sectors, who've been in multiple cycles, whether it been COVID, whether it be 9/11, whether it be hurricanes in the Gulf Coast, and grocery and pharmacy. Being able to deal with that and making sure we're taking care of our teammates and our employees this is not a short-term business. This isn't a quick trade. This is a long-term aspirational vision, and we'll be rewarded for that. So this is we love this business. It's local. It's about people. It's about putting the right processes in place and investing in it. And if you do that, I think our margins and our growth rates versus the markets have demonstrated that.
Yeah, I would add to that it's just, one of my biggest critiques of the grocery industry is really the dark side of data. Is it's just been, how do we, the margins are so slim. It's just where do you go to get the profit out of the experience? And unfortunately, I think it's really eroded the overall market experience and just for the consumer, for the communities, which is why I loved Whole Foods, in the early days, and especially New Seasons Market in the Pacific Northwest, very much a local feel. It's still market driven, customer driven, experience driven. And this is why I love cannabis right now. I think a lot of our new customers anyway have emotional barriers to walking in the front door. And if we can very quickly break down those emotional barriers, build that engagement, and to create a connection to the product, that's a win. And I think that's very much, where this industry is right now. I think eventually, we start to look at automation and other ways to create a more efficient experience. But right now in this industry, I think that people are going to win.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. You'd still want to maintain and retain that human element while balancing it with kind of like what you're saying, data or efficiencies through automation and all those things. Very important. I see Stevie in the comments saying customer is king, no customers, no business. That is very true. Definitely agree there, Stevie, which is great.
Exactly.
All right. Well, then I'd love to look to kind of the future and what the rest of, I cannot believe it is the end of September pretty much already. What the rest of 2024 has in store for you guys, where your focus is, what you're really digging into.
Yeah, I think, there's the outward look and the inward look. Outwardly, we're paying attention to what everyone else is, Florida vote, just to see which way that tilts. Rescheduling, presidential elections, revamping of the 2018 Farm Bill and closing those loopholes, 280E, all of the stuff you hear everyone else talking about. That's on our radar. We're close to that for sure. What we're really focused on is the inward journey and what we're doing to capture market share. Take advantage of what we see is going to be some shakeout in the Colorado market and continuing to consolidate and take advantage of what's happening in the New Mexico market. So, we'll continue to do things like address the balance sheet, but really more importantly, just focus on operational execution, the way we reach the customer. And we think retailing is going to win the day here. So we'll continue to drive efficiencies out of supply chain, grow our wholesale catalog even more in both states. We've got a couple of new announcements with new products, some exciting things that we're doing on the public brand space. So, I think, for us, we're looking forward to hopefully having a little bit of regulatory headroom, and we'll step right in.
That's fantastic. I feel like the approach for most cannabis companies lately, or in the previous years, has really been sort of hoping for the best, but planning for nothing. Does that feel a little bit different this time? Of course, obviously you don't want to overextend, but I know, it, to me, feels slightly different. It feels like some things are coming together, even on the political side, with both candidates kind of warming to a, more pro-cannabis kind of position. What's sort of your take looking forward?
I think this is the absolute best time to be an investor in cannabis. We have both sides of the aisle saying that the people need to be heard, maybe in a little different way, where I think if you look at the Republicans, they're saying this is a states' rights issue and the states ought to decide how they want to welcome cannabis. And, and I think, obviously on the Democrat side, they are listening to both sides of the aisle saying this should be something that's legal. It's medicine. It is, there's very little downside. We want to certainly make sure adults are using the product, but let's manage this thing and make sure we've got tested product that's medicine, that we know where it comes from. It's tested, it's safe. We want to make sure we get rid of some of the loopholes in the Farm Bill where you have psychoactive hemp-derived products, Delta 8, Delta 9, et cetera. We don't know where those are coming from. We do have a fentanyl crisis. So we're on the same side as government here. So I think we should be very optimistic. And I think from a company perspective at Schwazze, we're very excited. Forrest has brought focus. He's brought purpose in how we take care of our patients and customers. He's brought a lot of love and a lot of energy into new product development, and certainly brings humility and also brings a hunger to win, a hunger to take care of customers, to grow the company. And I think we're in a great spot. And we do have some debt coming due. We're working through that, and I don't see any issues that we won't overcome. So I think we're in a great spot. I think the industry's in a great spot. I'm surprised it's taken us 5 years to be in this.
I know.
If I, they say in anything, showbiz, et cetera, timing's everything. So timing is everything, but I think it's really a wonderful time. But we've built our company to withstand the ups and downs, and we generate free cash flow. We've got a great management team, very solid, and there's a lot more to do and a lot more performance to come. So we're very excited.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it definitely has taken a lot longer than a lot of people, myself included, would have liked, but it does feel like hopefully now we're finally at that overdue point where things are turning and making a change, which is really important and great. You mentioned sort of, debt and refinancing that. Would love to just chat briefly about, rates are coming down. We obviously saw the 50 bips cut recently. That's sort of kind of changing. Is that also, I'm guessing, a big benefit for you as a company?
I don't think that's going to be. I think it's going to take a while for that to work through the system to get to cannabis. Certainly, it's helpful, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time for lower rates to kind of work through the system. If you look at our specific situation, we have a stock that is traded by appointment because we had our ex auditor who we'd already moved on from has a issue with the SEC. So basically we had to go back and re-audit our 2023 books. Not that the company has done anything wrong. We have very, very solid controls in place. We have a very established board with very senior partners from a number of the audit firms on it. So Forrest comes with a very sophisticated background. But the point is that we went from on the QX, we went down to an expert trading platform, and we think we'll get put back up where we'll have more freer trading, more liquidity in the coming months. So, stock price is not where we want to be, but we'll get through that. Once again, it wasn't anything the company did. So it's a little bit of a road bump, but we'll get past that. We've got, we've started showing some better numbers, and, most importantly, we're winning with customers and we're growing market share into competitive markets. And Forrest and I are also working on New Mexico to get maybe a little more rigor within the regulatory environment. So we're spending a lot of time with the governor, with the speaker, with head of the Senate, and with the regulatory group there to put some best practices in place. So we're optimistic about that. So we think both markets are going to improve, and we should be a rising stock in the future.
That's awesome. And again, great for doing the work and kind of meeting on the political side. I think that is such an important element for our company. So that is great to be doing. All right, well, then maybe the final thing that I'll leave us on, which we've kind of covered, but just to put it all in one neat little package, just sort of if people are coming into the cannabis space who are new or have been in for a while, but maybe haven't looked at Schwazze and want to kind of, take a look ultimately, what's the thing that you would kind of point them to say, look at us, don't overlook cannabis, kind of what's the pitch to look at Schwazze kind of today?
Yeah, I would say we are very focused on driving market share and density and driving efficiencies in two very large markets, Colorado and New Mexico. We outproduce from a profitability and a growth standpoint. We consistently outpace the market by 10% growth, and our profitability is substantially higher, and we produce more cash flow. So we think that improves over time, and that's really attributable to Forrest and our team. We have very good operators who know how to be very efficient in delivering great experiences to our customers, and we see a great opportunity to continue to grow and to take advantage of consolidating both of those markets. We have a lot of promise in this business, and certainly we've had ups and downs with the broader market, and we've had a depression in Colorado where we've gone from 2.4 billion down to $1.5 billion market, and that's all price. That's not volume. And regardless of that, our margins are still in the mid-20s in terms of EBITDA, which is, I would compare that to anybody. So we've done a nice job. We've got more to do. We're certainly not perfect, but I think we've got a lot of upside in the business. And my thesis investing 5 years ago hasn't changed. We continue to like these markets. So, I think you want to invest behind known operators that are growing real businesses with cash flow and have demonstrated the ability to handle difficult times. And this team has done that. And I think we're doing some really innovative things with products and services. So I would put my money on a risk-adjusted basis on this team.
There you go. That's fantastic. I know he covered a ton. Justin, great job on the answer for us. Anything to add on that front as well?
I just, again, year and a half in, I know there were a lot of assumptions around timing some years ago. I can't imagine a better time right now. I think the fundamentals are strong when you look under the hood at consecutive growth we've seen. Two difficult markets, strong teams, strong disciplines. We're going to win.
That is fantastic. Again, I think just to be in cannabis is a sort of very ambitious thing, but I think to do well in it is fantastic. Yeah. And I think to have that longevity is the key component. So that's fantastic. All right. Well, Justin, Forrest, thank you so much for joining and taking the time. Really appreciate it. Everyone out there, thanks for joining as well. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much.
Mackenzie, thank you.
Thank you.
Before investing, carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses found in the prospectus, available at AdvisorShares.com.